I echo Hampton's comments that this could provide a short-term support or to maybe calm the markets a little bit. Markets are going to crave stability in a situation like this, and a special prosecutor, especially a former FBI head, being brought in to look into this answers a lot of the concerns that particularly Democrats have had in Congress. So maybe this will be sort of a pause or a respite, but it doesn't get rid of some of the bigger risks in the market, and that is, do we now need to reprice the feasibility of tax reform and healthcare reform as a policy?
You know, up until now, the markets have pretty much shrugged off a lot of these political headlines coming out of Washington, and yet we did see that big sell-off today. Why do you think this was the trigger that prompted that sell-off?
Yeah, up to this point, you know, we've had a lot of shiny objects out there that have kind of distracted the market from, frankly, some really strong fundamentals. The difference in today's news cycle, though, I think, was the word impeachment was openly used by members of Congress, by people in the media, quite frequently today. We hadn't heard that word being bandied about so loosely up until today. So in my opinion, that's the difference maker in today's market versus some of the other headlines we've seen over the past couple of weeks.
Does this in any way change the fundamentals for the long term? Can we basically expect lower equities, higher volatility, greater demand for safe havens from this point on, or is this going to be just a short-term correction?
I see this as a buy on the dips opportunity. I'm not going to, you know, ring the bell and tell people when to get back in necessarily, but the fundamentals underpinning this market, holding it up, are quite strong. We just came out of Q1 earnings season and saw about 15% year-over-year earnings growth, maybe 7 or 8% year-over-year revenue growth. Those are some pretty strong, solid numbers. Everything else we're talking about are inputs into that number. But in the end, markets trade off of, or stocks trade off of earnings and earnings alone. Everything else is a contributor to it, but it's earnings that matter, and earnings are quite strong.